I mean, going back to Bernie, I mean, you've dealt with Bernie a lot. I mean, you are the most prominent race promoter in Asia. I've called you before during my Autosport days, the Bernie Ecclestone of Asian motorsport. You've Because you've had to negotiate with him to get your series as a support race at Formula One Grand Prix.
Yeah.
Can you touch a bit on Bernie and how we know the legacy that he's left? I mean, he made Formula One into a multi-billion-dollar global phenomenon. But how was he behind the scenes? The public see him as, you know, the I don't want to say dictator, but I will, and the controller, and like you said, the brand, the Formula One. But behind the scenes, I've heard stories that he was a very gentle, caring person and things. But when it came to business, and like I said, you've had to deal with Bernie Ecclestone in business before. Was he an inspiration, and was he kind of a mentor to you in some way when you were becoming a big race promoter yourself?
Well, first of all, I have to say that I'm a huge fan of Bernie. You know, I wouldn't say that he wasn't a direct mentor. I mean, I didn't have the relationship with him where I could call him up and ask him for advice or anything like that. You know, it was purely a business relationship. My first encounter with Bernie was right at the beginning. My background was that I raced for about 10 years, you know. And then in '93, I came over and I won the Formula Asia Championship as a driver. And then I got into a fight with the organizer at the time, which was Alex Jung's father.
All right.
And Alex was racing in my team. And then we started to fight about different things about how things were happening. And then also when Alex left, then Alex went off to Europe. And I had the most dominant team. So I was supposed to continue my racing. I never intended to be either a team owner or a race promoter. I was a driver. I got offered after I won the Formula Asia Championship, which was a 2-liter single-seater formula, for those who don't know. I was offered a drive with Tom's in a touring car as a works driver. And I was supposed to do the Southeast Asia Touring Car Championship. So I had Esso as a sponsor, and I had Sanyo, and I had Tom's behind me, Toyota.
Wow, Esso.
That shows you how old I am. And so, you know, I was supposed to, I had been to Macau. Tom Christensen was driving one of the cars and Krum was on the other one. The cars raced at Macau. Following Macau, they were supposed to give us the cars, not us, but the team. And I was supposed to be the driver in the Esso-backed touring car, Toyota touring car for Tom's. So I'd been to Japan and met with them, and everything was agreed. And then Danny Stacey Chow, who became my partner later on, who was running the touring car championship in those days, said, no, sorry, no foreigners. Because they didn't want me to win. They didn't want me to dominate. I dominated the Formula Asia. And then he was worried that I was going to come in as a non-Asian and dominate the touring car championship. So he stopped me. And I lost my drive effectively. And then I tried to take the money somewhere else. And I tried to do a deal with Tom's to do Formula 3 in Japan. And it didn't happen. So then I had set up my own team. So I decided, okay, I'd been on TV a lot because Star TV had just started. And we were on before Formula 1. And because I was winning every race pretty much, my team won 26 out of 28 races, I think, that we did, or something like that. And I had won nearly every race except for one, I think, as a driver, because I had a mechanical failure in Sharlam on one. So I'd obviously, and we were the most presentable team. I spoke English very well, so I was a good guy to interview. So I was probably 60-70% of the show was about me and the team. It was almost
Right.
like having my own TV show for 2 years, right? So and it was on just before Formula One, and there were very few TV channels in Asia in those days. So I became quite a big personality, you know. So I had that background, and then I became a promoter, and I took over the Formula Asia thing, and then my friend had taken over the touring car championship with Danny the year later. A guy
Right.
called Darren Shaw from Shaw Media, who I had been racing against. And
Right.
Darren, I approached Darren and I said, that in those days, the circuits were playing the two championships off against each other. So they
Yeah.
were saying like, oh no, we can't give you this deal because if you don't want it, we're going to do a deal with the touring cars, or we'll do a deal with you or with you. So I spoke to Darren and we said, hey, why don't we team up? You know, they're playing us off against each other. Why don't we team up? And he said, yeah, okay. He'd just done a deal with IMG to do the marketing of the championship. And he said, look, I'm not interested in running it. You run it. And we did a deal. So Motorsport Asia was born as a 50-50 joint venture between Darren and myself, with Danny also involved in a small way. And one of the first things was he said, look, I've been trying to get TV coverage. This is bringing back to Bernie. Sorry, long way round.
Yeah.
But coming back to the Bernie thing, right? So
we've done the
we've done
Paris to
the
Dakar
history,
now.
yeah, to do it, to get here, which is like, you know, typical of me. But anyway, Darren had said to me, look, you know, and he was a part of a media company, and he had all these lawyers. Their specialist thing was TV. And in those days, TV was owned and controlled by Bernie globally, all championships under ISC. He had a company called ISC, which basically if you had an international championship anywhere in the world, Bernie owned the TV rights. And you had to make a deal with Bernie, right, to get your TV rights, right? So Darren had been trying to negotiate with him for a year with his lawyers and all this kind of stuff to get the TV rights, and had gone nowhere. Zero progress, right? And I said to him, look, we need TV. Without TV, we've got nothing, you know? We've got no coverage, no nothing.
Yeah.
We need TV. So he said to me, no, you know, I've been trying. We can't get anywhere, you know? And I said, look, I think we were like a few weeks before the start of the season. I said, let me call Bernie. So he said, no, you'll never be able to get anywhere with him. And I said, look, let me call him. For what it's worth, let me call him. So he said, okay, call him, right? So I never, you know, I really knew nothing. I mean, my ignorance was a blessing. You know, I really knew nothing in those days. So I looked up his number and I called him up and I said, Mr. Ecclestone, my name's David Sonenscher. I'm running this championship in Asia. I've got no money. I've got no sponsors. I've got nothing. I need TV. I can't do anything without the TV. And, you know, and you own the rights. And without TV, I'm nowhere. I can't even start my business. And he said to me, all right, let me sign the contracts and you can do whatever you want. And I said, okay, fine. And I hung up the phone. And literally the conversation was that long. And Darren had been with lawyers negotiating and all this kind of stuff to try to get the rights for over a year. And within 5 minutes, I called Darren back and I said, okay, we got the rights. He said, what are you talking about? And I said, yeah, I just spoke to Bernie. We've done the deal. We've got the rights. We just have to let him sign the contracts. So he said, you're joking. I said, no, I'm not joking. I'm serious. It's done. So that was it. And this was the point of the story is that, you know, with Bernie, he was a guy that was very practical. If you approached him and just told him what you needed and the practicality of stuff, then he saw that we had no money. He understood we had no money. He knew I had to have TV to make something happen. And he just wanted to know that I wasn't going to pull the wool over his eyes and try to make money behind his back, right? So I was open and said, look, I've got no money. I'm not going to make money out of this. I just need TV. And he was like, yeah, okay. He knew the game better than me, of course, right? And he went, yeah, okay, fine. You're not trying to be smart with me, so I won't try to be smart with you. But if you call him up trying to be smart with him with lawyers and this and that, he thinks that you've got something going on that you didn't want to tell him about and you were trying to pull the wool over his eyes. He was ruthless. He would kill you, right? So that was the difference. And so my approach was that with him. And then later on, I was with him. I had to negotiate with him, especially when BMW. I set up, we set up Formula BMW and Carrera Cup in Asia. And when BMW decided to pull the plug globally on the program, I managed to secure sponsorship with JK Tires to replace BMW. Okay, so
we're talking 14, 15, right? 2014, 13, 14, 15.
No, I think it was later. It was later. I think it was more like 18, 19, somewhere like that. And so I had money, but I had to do a deal with Bernie for the support rate. I wanted to keep what had been Formula BMW. Of course, with BMW's backing, first of all, we had a huge budget, not for me, but to run the championship. So we were buying slots in Formula One, which are not cheap. And we were running in 3 Formula One events every season. And that's a lot of money, because not only do you have to pay the fee, you have to pay for like the hospitality tents and the tents for the teams to set up in, and all this kind of stuff. The additional cost is almost as much as the race fee. So the final budget is huge. It's massive. And so, and having hotels in those kind of venues during that Formula One time is not cheap. So you have to, and flights and everything. So everything is through the roof. So to run on the Formula One program, but I felt that it was very important that I kept the same level in Asia for the Premier Single Seater Championship. I didn't want to just run a championship at a much lower level. I'd been doing it at the top level for so long, and I really wanted to maintain that, because we were really feeding kids through, and it was really credible, and it was working in a big way. So, I mean, Daniel Ricciardo, all these guys came out of it. Carlos Sainz was in my championship. I mean, lots of people came out of Formula BMW Asia, so, we really were playing a key role. We had huge status. So I had to negotiate this contract with Bernie, and it was unbelievable. I met him in Monaco. I negotiated with him. The thing that I couldn't believe was something so simple like a support race contract, right? You would imagine that Bernie would never have time for that, right? I mean, all the things he's handling, right? I'm simply calling him up to buy 3 slots off him for a Formula race, right? In 3 Grand Prix. In the scheme of things, for me, I feel like for him, this must be nothing, right?
Yeah.
I spent 4 months of discussion, so many phone calls. Every time, I've never had it. I've been, I've done business with all sorts of people all over the world, right, in motorsport. And before I got on the phone with Bernie, I had to really sit down and think through, I'm going to say this, then he's going to say that. If I respond in this way, he's going to shut me off, and that will be the end of the conversation forever. So I had to be really careful, because he was the kind of guy that if you gave him like an ultimatum type thing, like, this is all I've got, or I can't run. If you ever said that to him, like, I've only got like X amount and take it or leave it. He's like, okay, fine, I'll leave it. And you will never get him on the phone again. You will not get through to him again to renegotiate. So you had to make sure that everything you did, you didn't give the opportunity for him to close you down. So it was really a strategic masterclass, for me. I learned so much from dealing with him in that period of time. And, I fully respect him. And I understood exactly what he was doing, because in a small way, I was the same job at a much lower level. So I understood his rationale. I understood why he was asking for things. So I never got angry if he was pushing me for things. At the end, the deal that I got, he told people that I did a really crazy deal for him. Like, he had given me a great deal, right? He thought that I had negotiated a brilliant deal with him. I thought I had a terrible deal with him, okay? But actually, my deal was very similar to the deal that BMW had with him. And to get a deal that a company like BMW could negotiate with him as a independent promoter, I think probably was a good deal, you know?
Yeah.
So in the end, I could see that. But yeah, one point he even called me up about passes. Oh, you got too many passes. And I had to send him a list of the people. Him, personally.
Yeah.
He went through the list of people and said, no, you can't have this guy and this guy and this guy and this guy. You can't. I could not believe it. His attention to detail was just phenomenal, you know. So yeah, that was. I mean, Bernie was like that, and you know, and I met him, you know, quite a few times. Marcello was very close to him, so you know, he's yeah. I would think, and in terms of looking at how to do things, yeah, I think I probably took my cue from him on a lot of stuff, you know.